Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are jumping straight into a really foundational conflict in neuroscience.
It's one that really shapes everything. Every diagnosis, research grants, the treatment strategies for human behavior.
Exactly. And our source material frames the central question so brilliantly. It asks, when we try to explain complex or aberrant behavior, are we even looking at the right level of analysis?
It's a huge question. It's the difference between, say, looking at a broken machine and asking which part failed
Okay.
versus asking, hold on, what was the operating environment that caused that part to break in the first place?
Right. And modern neuroscience has given us these incredible tools, right? MRIs, functional connectivity mapping, biomarkers.
All of them. And so the temptation naturally is to use these tools to drill down and, find the problem in a specific tree.
And that's the core analogy we're using for this deep dive. The search for the problem in that isolated tree, a brain region, a visible lesion, some kind of neurotransmitter imbalance.
Versus the much bigger systems approach, the one that demands we understand the entire forest that shaped that tree to begin with.
And this isn't just some theoretical debate in a lab.
Oh, not at all. This dictates real-world decisions. Do we prioritize a new drug to tweak one chemical, or do we focus on changing a person's entire environment?
So our mission today is to give you a critical, balanced insight into both sides of this, because it really does affect how you understand complexity itself.
It really does.
Okay, so let's unpack this. I think we have to start with the tree.
We have to.
I mean, reductionist neuroscience, that search for the localized problem, it really dominates the field. Why does it have such compelling power?
Well, it's for one simple reason, really. It provides objective anchors
Okay, right to
and
it.
clear pathways to action. Reductionism works. I mean, our sources make a very strong case that we know for a fact that structural abnormalities, lesions, tumors, they do alter behavior.
It's concrete. It's repeatable evidence that grounds the science.
Exactly. It gives medicine something tangible to grab onto, which is, it's critical when someone is suffering. You need a starting point.
And these examples aren't subtle at all.
No, not in the slightest. We have classic, repeatable evidence. You see localized damage, and it leads to predictable behavioral shifts.
Like what? What's a classic example?
Well, think about the orbitofrontal cortex. It's basically the brain's social filter, impulse control.
Right.
If you damage that area, the frequent documented outcome is disinhibition, a complete loss of control over what's socially appropriate.
So that filter just fails. You see impulsivity, maybe emotional outbursts that, the person would never have shown before.
Precisely. And it's the same thing if you get a disruption to the limbic circuits. That's the network that governs emotion and memory.
And you'd see?
You often see profound emotional dysregulation. So the argument here is that, yes, the brain is a whole system, but specific parts clearly play these necessary localized roles.
And the imaging tech, even if it's imperfect, it gives us objective proof of these locations.
It grounds the inquiry. It moves the whole conversation away from what some reductionists would call, mere metaphor and speculation.
That's a huge part of the tree perspective strength, then.
It is. You can't medicate an entire system of external factors.
Right.
You can't write a prescription for the forest.
Right.
But you can target a specific lesion. You can try to adjust a known neurotransmitter imbalance. It gives you clear, actionable pathways for diagnosis and, crucially, for intervention.
And it assigns accountability to that physical thing you can see on the scan.
Yes, the abnormality.
But if we stop there, we're basically accepting that the abnormality is the ultimate cause.
And that's where the forest perspective pushes back. Hard.
It says seeing a lesion is just a snapshot.
It's the end product. It's not the history of the problem. That's the critical pivot. The systems view asks, why did that structure become abnormal in the first place?
Right, because brains aren't just these fragile, static machines just waiting to break.
Not at all. They're intensely adaptive biological systems. They're constantly being shaped by forces outside the skull.
Okay, so let's define that. What makes up this forest? What are these external factors that are powerful enough to literally, rewire the tree?
The sources point to several big ones. The primary shapers that exert this chronic real-world pressure.
Such as?
Your immediate environment, for one. The presence of chronic stressors, long-term nutrition, the complexity of your social structure, and even the presence or absence of meaning in your life.
These are the powerful winds and the soil nutrients that force the whole system to adapt over and over again.
Day in, day out.
Okay, so this is where we need to bridge the gap. When you say adaptation in response to, let's say, social structure, we're not just talking conceptually.
No, absolutely not.
We're talking about deep physical changes inside the brain. How does something like the social environment translate into actual physical pathology?
Okay, think of chronic systemic stress, that's a forest element, as a nonstop demand on the brain's energy budget.
An energy budget. I like that.
Your brain is just trying to survive this constant state of high alert. And that relentless pressure, it translates directly into the deepest physical structures of the cell.
So we see synapses remodeling, but it goes deeper.
Much deeper. We see changes in the cell's own energy infrastructure.
You're talking about the mitochondria.
Exactly. The mitochondria are the power plants of the cell. Under these conditions of, say, relentless stress or bad nutrition, they do one of two things. They either proliferate and get bigger, a state we call mitochondrial hypertrophy, to try and meet that impossible energy demand, or they become fragmented and just fatigued. This is the structural consequence of a hostile forest.
Wow. That's a fascinating and kind of terrifying point. The tree is literally burning itself out, trying to survive the weather.
And that energy shift affects everything, your emotional regulation, your cognitive filtering, all of it. On top of that, you see epigenetic shifts.
So the environment is actually turning genes on or off.
Yes. Changing how the structure is built and maintained over time. So if you see a peculiar, stunted, or maybe a hyperdense structure on a scan, the system's perspective demands you ask, what specific pressures required that adaptation?
It just flips the entire script.
Completely.
The structure isn't just inherently faulty. It's doing the best job it can to survive the conditions that were imposed on it.
The pathology might be a survival strategy that's just gone wrong over time, or a necessary but very costly coping mechanism.
So the forest view would say the structural abnormality is an expression of the problem, not the root cause.
That's the core of it.
But if the forest is the true architect, that leads us to the next critical point. How well can the tools we have now, our MRIs and PET scans, actually see the forest's influence?
And this is where it gets really interesting, because from the system's perspective, these celebrated tools are, well, they're excellent, but they're ultimately coarse instruments.
Coarse. But we see such fine detail on an MRI scan.
You see macroscopic detail. Think of imaging like a superb high-resolution map of a city's road network.
Okay.
It shows you where the structures are, the volume of the gray matter, the density of the tracks, but that map is a static snapshot.
And what's it missing? What does it fail to capture?
It fails to capture the continuous moment-to-moment metabolic and informational warfare happening on those roads.
Oh.
It can see the macroscopic outcome, like a giant traffic jam.
Yeah.
But it can't see the microscopic environment-driven causes, the specific accident, the broken traffic light, or, the lack of fuel at the cellular level.
So we're only seeing the consequence. We see a change in volume or density, but we can't see the continuous environmental process that led to it.
Right.
So what are some of these critical changes that are basically invisible to the scanner?
Well, the slow dynamic drift over decades, that's a big one. Imaging can't see the subtle process of synaptic pruning or overgrowth that changes how a circuit works because of a changing social environment. And it can't capture that chronic, relentless pressure of long-term stress remodeling at the scale of a single cell's energy production. You just see the structure that adapted. You completely miss the why.
We're looking at the location of the broken tree branch, but we completely miss the storm that broke it.
Exactly. The system's conclusion is that we are frequently mistaking location for explanation. Imaging tells you where the tree stands. It doesn't tell you why the forest grew that way.
So the diagnosis is often based on the consequence, not the actual cause that came before it.
That's the argument.
This really shifts the discussion then from the technical to the practical and philosophical. Why does this distinction between the cause, the forest, and the location, the tree, matter so much to you, the listener, in your day-to-day life?
Because, let's be honest, tree-level explanations are comfortable.
Comfortable how?
They localize the problem. They simplify it into a manageable point of failure. If a doctor tells someone it was a chemical imbalance, or the circuit failed, or you have a measurable lesion,
it gives you a clean, clear point of attack.
It does, and it removes any broader personal or societal implication.
Yeah.
It absolves the system.
It's so much easier to blame a single leaky pipe than to admit the entire plumbing system in the old house is corroded.
The tree explanation provides relief. It gives you a target. But the forest explanation, it's inherently uncomfortable.
Why?
Because it distributes responsibility. It forces us to look at these collective, much messier systems.
And those are the systems that are really difficult to face. If the root cause of, say, widespread anxiety isn't just a faulty gene, but it's chronic stress woven into our social fabric,
Or toxicity in the environment.
then the problem is no longer isolated to one person's faulty wiring.
The forest implicates the systems.
Yeah.
And as our sources say, systems implicate us. And that requires much harder, much broader action than just a prescription.
It means changes to working conditions, to food systems, to social structures.
All of it. Economic inequalities, the whole thing.
But let me push back a little on the forest perspective here. If we focus so much on the vastness of it all, social structure, meaning the environment, don't we risk becoming vague?
That's the danger.
Doesn't that lead us right back into that metaphor and speculation that reductionism pulled us out of? I mean, medicine needs action. It needs accountability. If everything is the system's fault, then nothing is immediately treatable.
And medical intervention becomes paralyzed. No, that is the necessary tension. It's a completely valid point. The reductionist argument is right on the level of intervention.
We have to treat the symptoms.
We have to. We have to treat the tree that is buckling under the pressure right now.
Yeah.
But the systems view argues that if we only treat the tree without even acknowledging the forest, that underlying problem will just manifest somewhere else.
Later on, or in the next generation of trees.
Exactly.
So we're arriving at the synthesis, the point the source material is really driving towards. This is not an either-or choice.
It can't be. Trees matter profoundly, but they have to be seen as expressions of the forests they grew up in.
That's the advanced, multi-scale thinking that's needed for the future of this field.
It is. We have to acknowledge that, yes, a tumor will absolutely destabilize behavior. It'll cause profound, localized symptoms.
Yeah.
But we also have to recognize that the cellular environment and the specific circuitry that that tumor is disrupting, they were shaped long before the scan ever happened by all those systemic pressures from the forest.
So the future of neuroscience isn't just about building slightly better instruments to measure the tree.
No, it's about designing research that can integrate all these different scales. It's understanding how a macroscopic, visible structure is constantly being dictated by microscopic forces that are responding to external demands.
And the ultimate takeaway for you listening to this is to adopt that multi-scale lens when you're looking at any complex biological problem.
Right. Our sources detail 5 critical scales that have to be integrated to get a full picture.
Okay, what are they?
You need to understand the cellular scale, the functional circuit scale, the full organism scale, the shaping environment scale, and crucially, the scale of time, that long-term developmental drift and adaptation.
That scale of time feels so key. The abnormality we see today isn't just a moment, it's the sum total of every single environmental transaction that system has ever made.
Every single one.
So what does this all mean for us? We've covered this core tension, the necessary search for a location of a problem versus the neglected exploration of its ultimate cause.
The crucial lesson here is that environmental factors create adaptations, the forest, that then manifest as visible, measurable structures, the tree.
So understanding the context of a structure is everything.
It's critical to truly understanding its function and why it might seem abnormal.
It forces us to ask these really tough, uncomfortable questions about the world around us, not just the body within us.
It does.
And maybe that is the most powerful thought to leave you with, and this comes straight from the closing argument of our sources. Perhaps the true question we should be prioritizing is not, where is the abnormality located?
But rather,
What kind of forest produces this brain?
if we can answer that question, we can finally stop mistaking location for explanation and pathology for fundamental cause.
That is a profoundly challenging concept to mull over as you observe the systems, the forests that shape your own decisions, and the health of everyone around you. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.